are you guys doing today? Welcome back to my channel where we're about that breaking cycles life. Now for today's encouragement, it'll be coming from the book of Isaiah, and yes, it's Isaiah 40 verse 31, and I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with this verse. And it says, "But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." So I wanted to use this analogy, and it's basically baking a cake. Now we know the process of baking and what it takes to get to the point of a beautiful cake, right? So the process would be get all your dry ingredients, get all your wet ingredients, stir them together to create a batter, and then place that batter into the oven. So this would be basically the process of waiting for the cake, right? And this is oftentimes the process that we would go through as Christians when God promises you something and he tells you to wait. And let's think of it as God is making a cake to give us for our birthday, and this cake will be top notch by the time it's finished, right? So the cake would go into the oven, and the child would be so eager, saying, "Mommy, when is the cake going to be done? When is the cake going to be done? Mommy, I would like a cake now. I would like the cake now. I like the cake now." And the mom says, "Okay, in the meantime, while the cake is in the oven baking, you can go and clean your room. Do something to help mommy. Do something to better enable yourself. Go read a book. Go do something edifying." And the child will be like, okay, fine. I'll go and clean. I'll go do something. In the idealistic world, not every child wants to do that, right? So in the idealistic world, the child will go and clean his room, go and read a book, go do something to pass time. So the cake would be in the oven, the cake would be in the oven, the cake would be in the oven. The child would be like, "Mommy, is it done yet? Is it done yet?" Mom would be like, no, it's not done yet. Please give it some more time. By the time it's done, by the time it's cool, it will be ready and perfect for eating. So, ding, we hear the oven timer go off. So the child says, "Mommy, is it done? Is it done? Is it done?" So the mom says, "Yes, it's done, but please allow it to cool off." Would that mother be fair to give that child a hot cake at that time? No. We all would wait a bit until the cake is cool. So the mommy would say, no, please allow the cake to cool so that it can be edible at some point. So, okay, mommy, I'll wait. And mommy says, okay. So the child says, "Okay, is it cool now? Can I have the cake? Can I have the cake? Can I have the cake?" And the mommy, knowing that the child really loves frosting, would be like, "Wouldn't you want me to just put some frosting on it so you can get the full experience of your birthday cake?" And the child would be like, "Oh, but it's going to take so long. But I really love frosting." And the mom would be like, "Okay, you can have it now, and it will still be a cake, but it won't be the best version of the cake. Or you can wait a little bit more and have the best version of the cake, your choice." And the child will be like, okay, I want frosting. So it requires him to wait a bit more. Now, when the mommy frosts the cake, it requires him to wait a little bit more after she has finished frosting, because the frosting needs to cool to ensure that when the cake starts being shared, it doesn't fall apart or it doesn't melt, right? So by the end of the frosting and the end of the cooling, the child would be like, "Mommy, is it ready?" And the mom would say, yes, the cake is ready. The cake is ready for eating at this time. And when the mom would give the child a slice of cake, the child would be like, "Wow, this is the best cake I've ever had in my life." Now, would you think that the child would say that about the cake if the child had that cake during the process of making the batter? It wouldn't be a cake at that time, right? And it would not be beneficial to the child. So the child would not say, "Oh, this is the best cake I've ever had." No, not during the process of making the batter. Definitely not during the process of baking it, because going into the oven while it's being baked would definitely cause the child to get burnt. Lesson there. And even after the cake came out of the oven, it would still be hot, so it still had some remains of the heat that it underwent in order for it to be the beautiful cake that we see in front of us, right? The child was still unable to eat the cake at that time. Now, after cooling, the child could have had the cake, right? The child would say, "Oh, this is a nice cake," but would he or she really say, this is the best cake ever if mommy didn't add that cherry on top, that frosting, that perfect frosting that needed to be added to give the flavor of the cake, to give the cakes that extra oomph, right? And this is basically the process, guys, of waiting on God. God would often promise us something, and we in our impatience would be like, oh, I want it now, when that promise would be in batter form, in batter stage. And we would basically say, God, how did you promise me this? And this is what I have to deal with when you promised me this. You promised me a cake with frosting, yet I'm getting the batter. And why is it that we would have gotten the batter? It's because we would have taken things into our own hands. Example, the story of Sarah and Abraham. We would have taken things into our own hands and just started to eat the cake while in batter process. Is that what we want? No, that's not what we want. Then let's say we waited out the batter process and the cake is now in the oven. This promise would have needed to undergo certain situations in order for it to become the best version of itself that would be needed in order to bless you with the promise that God gave you, right? And if we would have taken this promise for ourselves during that period when it's supposed to be baking, it's supposed to be undergoing the necessary circumstances that would require it to become a blessing to us and not a curse, we would then turn on God and be like, but you said that this is the promise. Why is it that this is happening now? And that's because we would not have waited on God. Now, the promise could be closer to us. That would be like the cake now coming out of the oven, and it would still be hot. And God would basically be like, no, wait a little bit more so that I can put the frosting on it for it to be a blessing to you. Because even though it looks as if it will be a blessing at this time, because it looks as if it's a cake, right? It is a cake at this time, and it looks as if it will be a blessing. But it will be an even greater blessing by waiting just a little bit more in order for God to put that frosting on it, put that little cherry on top, in order for it to truly be that great blessing that we would have desired. And God knows that we would prefer the cake with the frosting than the cake that just came out of the oven, right? And this is my admonition to you guys, so that we should wait for God. And it says, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. So during that period of waiting, it is a test for us to renew our strength in God, to trust that He will bring this thing to pass. And we shall mount up with wings as eagles, to know that if we wait for Him, the blessing that will come by the time He's ready to give that blessing, that promise to us, it will allow us to be on cloud nine, in a sense. And they shall run and not be weary. This will not be a curse to us, but it will be a blessing. And they shall walk and not faint, in a sense, the same thing. So waiting on God, let's not go to God and beg Him to give us the batter, or to give us the cake when it's in the oven, or to give us the cake when it's just out of the oven and when you slice it, it will crumble, because it has not cooled down yet. It has not basically learned its lesson in order for it to be a cake, like the way a cake should be. And let's be patient to know that God is waiting to put the frosting, put the cherry on top, so that His promise will be a blessing and not a curse to us. Because if it is that we get this promise too early, it will become a curse and it will not be a blessing. And we know that God favors in blessings and not curses, right? So this is my admonition for you today, that we should wait for God. And let's wait until the cake has been frosted properly, and we will enjoy the blessing that God has in store. So guys, have a great day, and bye!